everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Chief, how's it going?
I love that this is our new thing. And it just is a wonderful little Easter egg for people who paid attention to previous shows. And if not, if you didn't happen to listen to our listener question show last week, well, you'll just have to wonder why we're calling each other Chief. It's fine. Doesn't really matter.
Are you going well? Are you doing well? Are you going okay?
I'm waiting to hear how Kevin Warren thinks I'm feeling today. That's my big question. Like, I will be as good or bad as Kevin Warren thinks I am.
Yep, and we said on yesterday's show, we got up on Tuesday, planning to have a Tuesday show about the Big Ten schedule, and that didn't come. But we did get to have a show about the Buckeye captains being named, and we'll continue that show here today. But we're also hoping that there is a Big Ten schedule drop today. But the rumors of late, and these are very much rumors, although there are some, I guess, sort of reports that Kevin Warren is talking to athletes about should there be a football season, and some rumors that there may not be at this point. And I'm all for Kevin Warren doing some due diligence and actually talking to the players. I don't know I think the report was like one football player and one non-rev player per school. Was that Teddy Greenstein?
Yes. Yeah, Teddy Greenstein from the Chicago Tribune, who is one of the more plugged-in reporters when it comes to stuff inside the Big Ten offices. That was his report. Warren made a point to talk, I think he wrapped it up on Monday, to one football player and one non-rev athlete at each of the Big Ten's 14 schools to kind of get a sense for where they were on things right now. Based on our conversations with Ohio State players all sounded very comfortable with the idea of coming back and the protocols in place at Ohio State to keep them safe. And, I think you would hope that people at the other 14 schools or the other 13 schools all feel that way too. But, there has been a major outbreak at Rutgers. There's been a fairly significant outbreak at Michigan State. So there may or may not be people who feel super comfortable at each of those places.
If the situation at Rutgers costs the Big Ten the season, and right now that might be maybe the major cause, just seeing an outbreak take place, this would be Jim Delaney's biggest gaffe of all. And it's not like it's not like people were championing the Rutgers edition or the Maryland edition, but if this Manchurian edition of Rutgers of some sort, they've been brought in to disrupt and dismantle the Big Ten from the inside out, this would be Jim Delaney's lasting legacy. And Tom, if Kevin Warren, the new Big Ten commissioner, cancels the season, that may also be his lasting legacy. And it would be very much like Rutgers to bring down, to just totally eliminate the reputations of two very prominent men in sports.
Well, it's just when Rutgers got brought on, it wasn't like people at the time were like, oh, no, this is a good idea. And then, oh, this totally unforeseeable thing has changed how everyone views that. It's like, no, he brought a sack full of rats into the house and dropped it. And everyone's like, why would you bring those here? No one wants those. And now the rats have brought plague. And, that wasn't the only reason that it was bad. But here we are. We have rats and we have plague. Seems bad. So, yeah, I don't... And Kevin Warren is in a tough position because I'm sure there are lawyers in his ears whispering about liability and all of that kind of stuff. And you had the emotional Facebook post from the mom of the Indiana player who's had some complications after he got infected with COVID. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, but earlier this year, Gene Smith had talked about the fact that you don't have to have every Big Ten team play, and you could still play a season. And if Ohio State can keep its players safe and Rutgers can't, well, then Rutgers just shouldn't play this season, and Ohio State maybe can. And, if Michigan can play and Penn State can play and whoever else is able to kind of keep their players in, you're not in a bubble like the NHL players are, but if you can kind of keep people protected and follow the testing protocols and have players not going out to clubs and parties and that kind of stuff, then, maybe you can make this work. But yeah, it would be, it would be very, very probably hard for Ohio State fans to swallow if Greg Schiano manages to ruin the second Ohio State football season in the span of 3 years.
Like, who would be who else has done that? I don't want to say John Cooper, maybe Charles Woodson.
Yeah, Charles Woodson is probably up there. John Colazar may have done it.
Brian Greasy.
Yeah, maybe Brian Greasy. Stanley Jackson had a couple years in the mid-'90s that weren't great. But yeah, for Greg Schiano to do it, that would really be in such different ways. I mean, real spectacular versatility to be able to do it in such different ways. So, I think everyone is sort of still in the hoping for the best mode. And when we talked to players on Tuesday, they were all. They all professed to be optimistic and said that they felt comfortable with the way Ohio State was handling things, and their parents felt comfortable with the way Ohio State was handling things. And, they all seemed to think that this was a doable thing for Ohio State to play football. But as they all said, like they're all fine with how Ohio State's doing it. They're very comfortable with how Ohio State's handling everything. And they just hope that everyone else is handling it in the same way. And, that's the question. How many Ohio States are there and how many Rutgers are there out there in the Big Ten? Because if you just have one or two Rutgers, then, sorry, go get your shine box. We'll see you next year. If you have half of a league full of Rutgers, then, then maybe it's not doable. But, that's something that they have to figure out. And, hopefully they have an answer soon and they don't rush into anything, if they can kind of kick the can and see how things are going in another week or two, then, keep going and keep preparing and hope for the best.
One of the things that bothers me about this is the two programs with an issue right now are Michigan State and Rutgers, which are also the two programs starting over with new coaches, new regimes, new everything, who probably wouldn't mind if there was no football this year and they got a year off to build and to install this and create their culture. So it's like, you know what? I'm not saying this is my theory, but if they could go ahead and they're probably like, if we go ahead and get some people sick and convince the commissioner that we don't need to play, like this would be great for us because neither one of those coaches, Mel Tucker or Greg Schiano, wants to start out like 2-8 or 0-10 this year because now with no non-conference games, where are your wins going to come from? So it's going to be a terrible start to their beginning, to their career, a restart for Greg Schiano. So it's like, no, they obviously aren't lax in allowing people to get sick, but like those two coaches, I bet they would love or at least not be as upset as Ryan Day or James Franklin if there is no season. And it's just interesting that it's like those two programs starting over. They're the ones with the issues. They're the ones who probably wouldn't mind not going 1-9 or 0-10 this year. And it could cost everybody else. It's like in school when the class clown would get everybody in trouble. It's like, all right, now we're pop quiz right now. We're taking a test. We're doing a quiz because I don't like how Tom is making fun of people. And this is like, Rutgers is a class clown with no jokes. They're just loud, obnoxious. Nobody likes them. They're not funny. They're just annoying. And the teachers, is just like, I can't take it anymore. No football for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's probably something to the idea that if you have just turned over your coaching staff, it's probably not because things are super fantastic there culturally and in terms of on-field results. And things were not super fantastic culturally or in terms of on-field results for either Michigan State or Rutgers. And then you get that transition year where, there are a bunch of guys that the new coach is probably not that thrilled about and wouldn't be super sorry to see go. And the guys, some guys who got recruited by one coach might not really like the new coach and might not be that super invested in the season. Compare that to Ohio State, where they're playing for a national championship. Like, no one at Rutgers is even going to pretend that they're playing for a national championship this year. And I don't think anyone at Michigan State is probably going to do that either. And that means that Ohio State players have a goal. They have something in mind. They have something they're shooting for. Guys at Rutgers, what difference does it make if I go out to a party? I'm going to go be a college kid, and that might be the difference between going 2-8 and 1-9. And really, in the long run, what difference does it make? And you look at Ohio State, and you look at the focus that they have on the Michigan game, winning the Big Ten championship, getting the college football playoff, advancing in the college football playoff, winning the national championship. They know they were close to doing it last year, and they want to do it this year. And you've got a lot of guys with NFL potential, and as opposed to the Michigan State roster, the Rutgers roster. The old NCAA commercial about going pro in something other than sports, that's probably about 82 out of the 85 guys at Rutgers. And, Ohio State's probably going to have 3 to 4 first-round draft picks. You've got guys who want to play for that reason. You've got guys who have been working their whole career and are, have been trying to get to the point where they can win a national championship. They know they have the team, they have the coaching staff to do it this year. And that makes the focus real easy. So, yeah, you hear the way Ohio State players are talking about Michigan this year and the focus that they have, and it's like, man, you can tell they would just do anything to get out there to play that Michigan game. And I wonder if, you go to Illinois or Iowa with all the crap that's going on in the Iowa program right now, or Michigan State or Rutgers or Maryland. I don't think you're going to find that same focus there, and that's where you may run into some issues.
Well, I don't think it's much different than players sitting out bowl games. Nobody has sat out a playoff game yet. There's certain levels that you sit out, and I kind of view this as like, what players on a national championship contender have opted out at this point? And I don't know that anybody really has. Minnesota lost Rashad Bateman. Minnesota's not going. Theoretically, anybody can come out of the Big Ten West and maybe win the conference and maybe go to the playoffs. So we haven't seen it yet, but in reality, they're not really contending for a national championship. And I don't know that anybody who has opted out yet. And I think until that happens, then I'll pay more attention. But it's like, yeah, okay, UCLA, and I see people in the Pac-12 like, I don't want to play, and it's like, well, and I understand those reasons. It's just interesting that it comes from the Pac-12, where the idea of football, of college football, is different in the Midwest and the South than it is out West. And I'd say it's like valued more in the Midwest and the Southeast, and not so much in the Pac-12, which is why they can take the chance of losing it. You've got more people willing to give it up. That's great to have what you're standing up for. It's just, as Justin Fields, we talked to him on Tuesday, he's like, well, there's been some talk about it in the Big Ten about what's going on in the Pac-12, but nothing serious and nothing to that level, and there would be no opting out. And to me, it's an interesting comparison between that region, our region, and the Southeast. And then it also goes back to the players who are opting out because there's just, you don't have as much on the line, or I shouldn't say that. Like, the biggest thing you have on the line is your health and your future. At Ohio State, you got your health, your future, and a national championship.
Yeah, and you've got guys who have an NFL future too, who I think there's some question about, how much would sitting out a year, especially on a team that is a potential national champion, hurt someone's draft stock. And, there are perfectly legitimate reasons to sit out. I mean, there are several Ohio State football commits for 2021 who are sitting out the year. And Jordan Hancock, the cornerback from Georgia, who just flipped from Clemson pretty recently, he's sitting out, but his parents have health conditions. And it's like, yeah, absolutely, you should sit out. That is okay. And there are more important things than football, and that's understandable. And if people decide they want to sit out, that's a decision you should respect, and that's perfectly okay. But yeah, I think it is something that is, I think Ohio State players are doing what they can. They're looking for ways to make this work, was sort of my takeaway from from our conversations with them on Tuesday. Jonathan Cooper, Justin Hilliard, those guys talked about how, this is not going to look like a normal season. They know they can't hang around with the general student body like they normally would. That's going to be a challenge. The guys who are having in-person classes, have to be smart about how they're doing that. They are going to have to distance. They got to wear masks. They've got to be careful about who they're sitting around because, while Ohio State football players are getting tested a couple times a week and they're keeping themselves as isolated and in a bubble as they possibly can, I mean, I know I've seen studies or surveys of college students. 70% say they're not going to parties. They won't go to parties if that will help keep, make the college year happen. It's like, that means 30% of you are going to parties and 70% of you are lying. Like, it's just, I mean, there's just going to be so many challenges with just people living in dorms, people going to parties, people sitting in classrooms, and can they sterilize Independence Hall 101 the same way they can sterilize the Woody Hayes Athletic Center? Probably not. Can they, all of those big lecture hall classrooms, Hitchcock 101, can they sterilize that the way they sterilize the Woody Hayes? Probably not. Are they going to be able to sterilize lab settings for in-person stuff? Can they do that to the degree that they're doing the Woody Hayes? Probably not. So, and then you've got, guess what? College kids go to bars. I don't want to, if you need me to show my sources on that, I can, if this is like a citation needed thing, but I feel like that probably can be taken pretty much at face value that, hey, college students go to bars. And even if they close the bars at 10 o'clock, college students will be out from 8 to 10 or 7 to 10 or 6 to 10 or 3 to 10. It doesn't really matter. And you're going to run into issues in the general student body. And as much as everyone wants to say, that, oh, these are just regular college kids who just happen to play football. It's like, no, they're really not, first of all. And second of all, they're really not this year, because if they are, then all the stuff you're doing to keep it out of the facility is not going to work, because you're going to, they're going to pick it up somewhere else. And it doesn't matter where you pick it up. If you pick it up, you pick it up and you have a problem. So, but I mean, those Ohio State players were all very much willing to, we talked to older guys and they were all very much on board with the idea that, hey, this is what we got to do. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to communicate to the younger guys that, hey, I know you have an idea what being a college student looks like. It's not going to look like that this fall. That's the price of having a season. And, getting them on board with that. And, I think my impression, certainly from our conversations with all 7 of those guys on Tuesday, was these are guys who are willing to pay the price and do whatever they need to do to have a season. It's just a question of whether everyone everywhere else is going to be willing to do the same thing.
Well, and Tuff Borland and Justin Hilliard were both asked about wearing masks or any type of face covering during practice and workouts, and they both said they hate it, but if they have to do it, they will. And this is all about the entire team making sacrifices to make sure that they get to play. And if it's wearing a mask and running around in the heat and doing whatever they're being asked so that they can play, they're willing to do it. They want to do it. And that's just, that's just one example of the things they're doing, because there's also all of the social distancing going on, all of the stuff once they leave the building. There's keeping each other accountable, holding each other accountable, and just watching out for the young guys. And it's a new level of leadership for all of these captains. And it's been, we're just talking to them, and you don't even think of everything that goes into what they have to deal with now. And it's just, but that's been the entire year pretty much since March. Everything is a one day at a time. You tackle that day's issue and then you go on to the next. And I guess that's where we are with the Big Ten as well. Waiting for a schedule. Is the season going to happen? Is there a postseason? Where will Ohio State open their season? And we'll find out maybe tomorrow. And if not, maybe the day after that. And if not, each day will be its own little adventure. And we will be talking to Ryan Day later in the week, Thursday, I believe, in the lead up for Friday practice, assuming Kevin Warren doesn't come in and, shut things down. But Tom, we talked about the offensive captains on Tuesday evening. So today, let's finish up with the defense. just run through some of the stuff that interested us. Sean Wade was asked, like his leadership style compared to Jeff Okuda and Damon Arnett and Jordan Fuller, which are like three very different guys.
That is very much a three guys who have never been in my kitchen kind of
Exactly.
assortment. Yes.
Like compare and contrast Damon Arnett and Jordan Fuller, and you're like, whoa, I'm going to need some time on this one because, buddy, that's going to take a long time to get from point A to point B. And then Sean Wade is probably somewhere in the middle of that because he is a corner. So, he can talk and he can do all of that, but he's also a leader for the young guys. And it was interesting as we're talking to all of these guys. Hey, what's it like being captain? Hey, what's COVID like? Hey, what are the workouts like? It's like, I wanted to ask an actual football question. I asked Sean Wade, hey, what's going on in the slot? He's like, I don't know, man. It's like, oh, that's great.
He did though kind of give you an answer. It was one of those things where he gave you a non-answer, but then he only said one name. Yep. So Marcus Williamson was the name he said. So my takeaway from that is look for Marcus Williamson in the slot. This is very much, there's a certain element of reading tea leaves to talking to guys because no one wants to tell you anything, but sometimes they tell you something without telling you something. So that was my takeaway because when you asked about guys who are looking good, he literally just went through the entire depth chart. It was just like, just read the phone book. Here is literally all the corners. Okay, these guys are all looking great. Okay, good. But when you asked him about the slot corner, he said Marcus Williamson. So that I think you might be able to read something into.
Well, and he's talking, and I didn't even ask him who was looking good. I think that was the person right before me, and I was like, crap, they're going to ask my question. But he's like, yeah, Tyreek Johnson can come in for me, and we don't miss a beat. And I'm like, well, that would be great if true for everybody involved. I'll wait to see it, to believe that anybody can come in for you and you don't miss a beat. But then when he's like, hey, Sean, who's in the slot? I don't know, but, keep an eye on Marcus Williamson. It's like, oh, okay. Because I guess he's been looking good and I'll have to go back and read the transcript, but he's been doing some decent things. And that was a guy we've talked about who just needed to stay healthy, has that slot corner, that slot receiver quickness and size. That might be a guy to watch there. And then I also asked him if there's going to be a 3-corner rotation. He said Kerry Combs has talked about it. And I would assume if Seven Banks and Cam Brown are neck and neck, then you've got your 3-corner rotation outside. And Sean Wade did say he wants that back. So he wants to have that 3-corner rotation, which I think it's great when guys want it, want to share those reps and want rest. And you don't get that everywhere.
No, for sure. And that was something I remember Jeff Hafley talking about last year when he was here. He talked about being with the San Francisco 49ers the year before and watching film and being like, why are these guys not playing every down? And he came and asked them when he got to Ohio State, like, why are you guys not every down players? It's like, no, that's just not how we do it here. That's just how, there is a, and they explain the logic behind it, and he obviously understood it to the point that he continued doing it when he was at Ohio State. So there must be some validity to it. But yeah, that's something that you keep those guys fresher throughout the course of the game, and then all of a sudden, this is something that Ohio State does on the other side of the ball. They have you have basically 6 starting wide receivers. Well, if the other team's only playing one set of corners the whole game, guess what? If you have two sets of wide receivers to run at them, by the end of the third quarter or so, those corners are getting gassed, and you've got fresher wide receivers who can just run past them. And if Ohio State can rotate corners, you don't run into that problem as much. Plus, if you have someone who gets hurt or thrown out for a questionable targeting call, hypothetically, then you have someone else that you can put in there that has the reps, who's played in, functionally as a starter. And when those guys leave, when your 1 or 2 guys leave and go our first or second round draft picks every year, you have someone who is a returning starter no matter what. So there's a bunch of reasons to think that that's a good idea. And yeah, if they do have Marcus Williamson in the slot and they really can rotate Seven Banks, Cam Brown, and Sean Wade outside, that would be huge for this year. If they can keep doing things the way they do at corner, as well as things are going at corner, just on a year-to-year basis, like, yes, you should keep doing it exactly the way you're doing it because it keeps working and you keep pumping out NFL first-round draft picks.
And this would be a good year to have an extra starter at any position because you don't know when you might lose somebody. Another area where there are more than one extra starter, I'd say, is at linebacker. And we talked to Justin Hilliard, sixth-year linebacker named captain. Tom, did you see the video of the phone call to his dad that Ohio State posted?
Yes, I did. That was Ohio State released a tweet on the Michigan series that I thought was a little out of character for the Ohio State official Twitter account, but the Justin Hilliard video was very much right in the Ohio State Twitter account wheelhouse. Like just a really cool video. I mean, that is a kid. We talked about him a little bit yesterday. He's a kid who has just gone through so much throughout the course of his career, and came to Ohio State with the 5-star pedigree, and I think probably, may have come with the, 3 and out kind of first round draft pick kind of idea in his head. And that has very much not been how it has gone for him for reasons completely out of his control, involving a ton of injuries. And he has just scrapped and fought and kept working at it. And here he is in his 6th year, captain of the Ohio State football team. And there was a great video. You should absolutely watch it. Al Washington and Greg Madison call his dad, and with Justin right there, and his dad basically goes, "I'm having a good day. This better not be bad news." And it was just, and his dad was like overwhelmed with emotion when they told him. It was one of those, like, I think my favorite is still the walk-on gets a scholarship video, but I think that's my favorite of that whole genre of college football Twitter short videos. But yeah, the longtime good soldier kind of guy gets voted a captain. Like that is right up there. That is extremely good content.
Like, I don't know how often Greg Madison and Al Washington call up Justin Hilliard's parents. They probably text quite a bit. But if you're Justin Hilliard's dad, anytime you see like an Ohio State number pop up on your phone, I'm sure memories come flooding back and like your heart drops a little. It's probably like anybody when you get a call like 3 a.m, like, this is not good. Whatever this news is, because the freshman year tore his bicep, second year tore his bicep. Last spring had an Achilles injury. So and as he said, I'm having a good day, basically please don't ruin it. And of course, they made him cry. And so it's always good when there's video of a dad crying about his son doing anything and accomplishing anything. And so that was great to see. And really, it's a credit to the parents that Justin Hilliard stuck it out as much as he did and rehabbed as hard as he did. And, that's also a credit to the OSU staff. And like we've mentioned, the head rehab specialist there, Adam Stewart, who's gotten, everybody back to normal, be it JT Barrett in a week, Johnny Dixon after years of injuries, Ezekiel Elliott, whomever, and he gets them right. And he's done that with Justin Hilliard for years. So everybody's rooting for him. That's another reason that Ohio State definitely wants to play, because this is a guy, his 6th year, looking for his best year. And takes me right into Jonathan Cooper, who could have stuck it out last year and played and not redshirted, and said, yeah, it's kind of annoying that he's dealing with this right now. Like, you give up your season last year, you choose to redshirt, and this is the season you redshirt for. And now it's about just doing everything you can to be ready if the season happens. And that was the guys were all optimistic and saying there's no point in being pessimistic. There's no point in worrying about the season being canceled, because like, if you take it easy and you think the season's going to be canceled now, imagine if it's on and you're not ready at all. So they're all just trying to be ready. Tom, we talked a little bit about Michigan in the last show, but I also want to talk about them again here today, because you mentioned the tweet from the Ohio State athletics department, which was, I believe it was the quote from, was it Wyatt Davis saying?
Yeah, it was the quote from Wyatt Davis. The tradition of the game is very important to us, but if it's the first game on the schedule, so be it. We just want to beat the brakes off of them. Hashtag, close quote. Captain Wyatt Davis speaking for all of Ohio State football. Now, I tweeted this, I quote tweeted that, and I said, interesting to see the program steering right into this. Normally you don't hear Ohio State players talking like this. You definitely don't see it getting pushed out by the official channels. Now we have, we talked about this a little yesterday. Like, as soon as Justin Fields said that, it was like, did he say that? Is that what he said? And then Wyatt Davis very much said the same thing. I mean, said, as Justin said, and boy, our buddy Nevada Buck had a little nugget on the board on some interesting stuff that may have happened on Tuesday. And, if you wanted to wonder, connect some dots and wonder if a couple things might be related, that might not be unrealistic to think that those couple things might be a little related, because this was extremely out of character for the Ohio State football program. Ohio State has, for a number of years, just been a very much the answer you get every time you ask them about Michigan is you respect the rivalry by working it every day. And we respect our rivals, and they call the team up north and they call them our rivals, and they don't say the word Michigan and all of that. And, but it is, they don't ever talk them down. They don't ever, go, hey, that Jim Harbaugh, he's kind of a dingus. And, it is very much, the credo in there is, we respect the rivalry by working it every day. And they have the team up north period during practice, and they have multiple walls inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center dedicated solely to the Michigan game, and countdown clocks and all sorts of stuff. And like, that is very much how they treat it. And to come out and talk about it in that way, it is so out of character. I cannot remember the last time an Ohio State player came out, before the Michigan game and kind of popped off. Especially, like, this isn't like the week of the game where someone got a little riled up. This was like, we don't know how far out from the Michigan game it is.
It might be the week of the Michigan game, Tom. We don't know.
Yeah, a month, 2 months. Who knows? But when was the last time? Like, I'm thinking back to Ohio State guys popping off about Michigan, and it's like Terry Glenn, David Boston,
Jim Tressel.
You don't see it. Yeah, like Jim Tressel at the Schottenstein Center on January 18th, 2001. That's about the most recent time you've seen someone do it in public. And you get people in private who will say some things, and sometimes that'll leak out. But yeah, to come out in public and have multiple guys, just flat out say we want to beat the brakes off of them, and then the Ohio State official media account, sometimes you'll get some blowback on like, why are you emphasizing this, or why are you talking about this, or whatever. For the Ohio State official athletics verified account to come out and quote that, like, boy, they are not backing away from this one at all. So yeah, that to me is very, very interesting. And I sure hope there's an Ohio State Michigan game this year, because that's, every year that is the most exciting game on the schedule. That is the day every person in Ohio looks forward to all year long. And this year it's like, oh, there's a whole bunch of extra spiciness on that. And boy, I hope we get to see a game, because no matter how it plays out, boy, is that going to be a day.
And whatever day it is, all of the players were like, yeah, it doesn't matter what day, we'll do it whenever. Jonathan Cooper said, as long as we get to play them. And I think Josh Myers was like, maybe earlier the better, just so we make sure that we play them, even though he came back and said, it doesn't matter when, because I think the entire season will happen. And he ended with, any day. So when would you like to play Michigan? Any day. So that's their mentality right now. And as a guy who views Ohio State and Michigan as the best thing in sports, I am here for this. I'm always in favor of, I don't want to, not just being cocky and being disrespectful, but there's some heated confidence is how I would call it. And if it's heated and like it's coming from a place that is a little unexpected, or it's a response to something that is a little unexpected, then all the better. But I'm with you. I can't wait. Sooner rather than later, I'm with everybody else. As long as it happens, I don't care when. That's what we've been saying for about a month now. Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday, Saturday, we don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been a very consistent mantra for the two of us for quite a while. Like, whatever the season can be, like, have a season. Whatever season you can have a season. Play the Michigan game, and if that's in September, great. If that's in November, great. You want to play in September and November, great. Like, whatever. Let's just have a college football season, because you know what? College football season's really fun, and if they can do it in a safe way and can let people who have been working their whole lives towards this season get to have this season and not have to take it away from them, like, great, let's do that. Because there have been a lot of people who have lost out on senior years of baseball, senior years of softball, senior years of soccer, senior years of football at the high school level and, at the college level for some of those. And not everyone who missed out on a senior year of baseball this spring is coming back to play another year next spring. And even if they do, there's no guarantee that they'll get it. So yeah, there are a lot of people are missing out on stuff. And if you can, if guys who have, put in all the time, put in all the work, put in all the effort, can have a chance to, get to see it on the field and play it out on the field. I mean, just look at Jonathan Cooper last year. Jonathan Cooper had a terrible season because of injuries. He had a very severe ankle injury and missed a whole bunch of he's a captain. He missed a bunch of what was supposed to be his senior year and decided to come back. He could have played in the Big Ten championship game, could have played in the college football playoff, decided, nope, I'm going to play my fourth game against Michigan because I want to play the Michigan game. That's the game that matters. And played it, and then watched from the sideline as they won the Big Ten championship and played in the college football playoff. Like, that could not have been an easy thing for him to do. And now for him to potentially have to miss out on the season that he punted last year, specifically to get a chance to come back and play a full senior season, it would be really, really, really a shame if he didn't get to do that.
Yeah, and Urban Meyer applauded his decision last year, saying it was the right choice. That was the right game to play with one. If you're going to choose one, that's the one that you would choose. Tom, anything else from the Tuesday session from the captains that you wanted to talk about?
I think that was the big stuff. You mentioned the guys talking about how wearing a mask on the field during workouts was hard, but if that's something they have to do, they're willing to do it. And I think that just goes with everything else. Like, yeah, this is whatever they have to do, they're going to do it. If, you tell them they have to hop on one foot to play this year, they will hop on one foot to play. Like, they want to play. So hopefully they get a chance to do it. And, hopefully the show is not outdated as soon as we publish it. But, if we will be back on Thursday with another episode. We'll have, Ryan Day we're talking to tomorrow, and hopefully we will have, a little bit of a Big Ten schedule we can give you an update on, and hopefully there's a season we can give you an update on, because, I think there is a perception that some people are hoping there's not a season or rooting for there to not be a season. I think I can probably speak safely for both of us by saying we would desperately love for there to be a college football season. Find a way to do it safely, take the precautions you need to take, whatever that is. Do it safely, do it the best way you can, and, let Justin Hilliard, who came back for a sixth year, have a chance to play that sixth year as a captain. Let Jonathan Cooper, who punted the last couple of games of last year, to get a chance to come back and play a full healthy year, play a full healthy year. Like, it would be awesome if that could happen, because there are players like that on just about every team in the country, and they all deserve a chance to play if it can be done in a safe and responsible way. You know what?
I'm also all for unsafe and irresponsible. Just make it happen. That is a joke. I am kidding. Of course. Yes, we are. Safety is the priority, and we see that with Ohio State, and that's why the players and the families have confidence that they can play football because they're seeing what Ohio State does. The question is anybody else who all is doing it like Ohio State? And that may be the big hang up. So we'll call it a show now. We want to thank you all for listening. As always, rate and review this show. We appreciate it. It helps us get seen by more. Always feel free to send your feedback, send your questions that we can throw into our pile of listener questions. Make sure to check out the rest of the podcasts on the network, of which there are plenty, and that includes the Morning Scoop hosted by Tom Orr. Tom, how's that been going for you? Pretty good?
It's every morning we're there. It has actually been a lot of fun because there has been a lot more to talk about during the summer than you would think. So that's been fun. I'm there every morning, Monday to Friday, like 15, 20 minutes, just to kind of give you what you need to know and kind of a news of the day. And we'll talk to guys on staff. We'll talk to national writers. We'll talk to beat guys from other teams. Just to kind of give you a little bit of everything that's going on. I'll throw in a plug for Around the Oval. That's Alex Gleitman's podcast. He does, has on current Ohio State commits, or Ohio State recruits. He's had some really good episodes recently with guys like Deshaun McCullough, who is a potential future Ohio State commit. But just really, really good, interesting, insightful conversations with them. Gives in the Bank, that's Mark Givler and Bill the Bank Green. It is the most insightful recruiting talk you can possibly imagine. Like we'll talk recruiting sometimes, and now it's like I feel like most of the stuff that I know about recruiting, I know because I read Mark and Bill and talk to them quite a bit, and it's like, oh wow, that's a lot more than I used to know. So yeah, those guys are super, super, super insightful. We actually have started to branch out. We have a baseball podcast called Just a Bit Outside, talking a little Cleveland Indians. That's our buddy Brandon Castell. Scoop World Order, that is Kirk Barton's podcast, and he has just had an absolute murderer's row of guests. Tons of great former Buckeyes. Orlando Pace, Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, just had Andy Katzenmoyer on. That was a fantastic conversation. He's someone who I think was the biggest star in Columbus while he was at Ohio State, and then still lives in Columbus, and I think he has just kind of been off the radar for a while. Really, really interesting conversation with him. Silver Bullets podcast is here. Our buddies at the Sloopcast, Jared and Kyle are here. And Vegas Knows, Bill and Mark also do a gambling podcast that's going to pick up a little more. They've done a couple episodes already. That will pick up a little more as we get a little closer to the season as well. All really, really fun, entertaining, different shows. You can find them all. Just go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud. Just search Buckeye Scoop to find all of those. And subscribe right there, and also leave us a rating and review on all those. Leave us a 5-star rating. That really helps new folks find each of those shows, because genuinely, I can tell you, I think you will enjoy all of them.
And we'll be adding a Browns show here shortly. Not me and Tom. Tom's got enough on his plate, and I don't want any more on mine. But look for that as well in the coming days. So thank you all for listening, as always. Have a good one, and we will talk to you pretty soon.